So I had a traumatic experience at the Dollar General today, and I posted about it on my Facebook. But as I'm sitting here, I'm just folding laundry, and in the moment, I thought about how, and I'll tell the story just to give full context of everything. I was standing in line. And I think I will add the racial aspect to it just for like context. And I talk to toddlers all day, so a lot of times, like, my vocabulary tends to suffer. I need to do this, like, talk to, whoever is willing to listen, and also be in community with adults more outside of just work stuff, because work has its own lingo. Anyway, so I'm in line. I have my two toddlers with me, Rylan 3 years old, Nasir 16 months. Rylan is inside the cart. Nasir is in the part where the legs go through, and she's like in the part of the cart where you typically put your items. So there was a white lady in the line, and she'd apparently picked up some stuff from a section that had a certain price, and the stuff rang up for more than what she thought it was going to be. And so there was one clerk running the register. The other clerk was helping to bring the scanner to scan the item, to check the price, and to let the lady know that that the accurate price is what's scanned and not actually where the item was. And so I noticed, it's taking a little long, but I think I was more focused on calming my 3-year-old. At one point, she had one leg out of the cart to the point where she was climbing out, because we're at the front counter where all of the items are that are there to tempt you and to get the kids acting up so you can give in and say, oh, okay, just to keep them quiet. And so I was like, no, Rylan, you can't have that. Put your leg back in. And Nasir, he's always cool, calm, and collected. And so I started singing songs, and he would clap his hands and sing along, and he even was singing a song. He kept saying, ah, and apparently I was trying to sing other songs, and he kept saying, ah, and then finally I'm like, oh, you want to sing row, row, row your boat. And so I'm like, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. If you see a crocodile, don't forget to scream, ah. And he's like, yeah, it clicked for him, and I'm just like, oh, cool. Rylan don't care. She whining. She ready to get out of there. We already been to church, and that was another thing where, she's a toddler. She's not going to sit down and just be, whatever. I'm trying to teach my children emotional intelligence. I'm trying to model emotional intelligence and self-regulation for my children, because I know how important it is. So I'm just singing, trying to distract, but I'm thinking, man, this lady just need to go on, give it up. And, people are coming behind me, and so there's 2 to 3 people behind me now. And I'm just like, this line is getting long. Everybody's attention is focused on this one person who's having a and I'm not saying, okay, in this story, I'm going to tell what everybody was doing from my purview, right? And I'm not going to assign any blame to anyone. And so it's perfectly within her right to say, hey, you know, I really thought it was this price, whatever, whatever. And there are some stores where if you pick something up and there's a discrepancy about a price, they're going to give it to you for that price. But Dollar General was not on that. And so the one young lady who was not running the register was asked to go and get the scanner and come back and scan. Meanwhile, the clerk who is running the register is on the phone, and from my ear hustling abilities, what I heard was that she was asking what sounds like a coworker to come in because she had to leave and go to another job. And she's saying, no, you got to come in. She's like, because I got to go to work. And then she was even saying to the clerk who was there, if, what I'm picking up from observing is correct. She was saying to her, you just gonna have to be here by yourself because I gotta go to work. I've been in the store by myself, with a whole lot of customers, for hours at a time, and I gotta go to work. And so she just basically on the phone with the one coworker, in the store with the other coworker, saying she gotta go to her other job. She don't have time. And basically kind of telling them they got to figure it out. All the while, the white woman is still trying to kind of push for, what she wants and not going to get, right? And so I kind of look behind me because I'm getting kind of agitated, and I already, it dawned on me just actually yesterday that I have a lot of anxiety around taking my two toddlers out because they are both little. They have not learned how to control their emotions. They cannot meet their own needs. And so a lot of that emotional regulation and meeting of the needs has to be done by me. And there's me and two of them, and we're in public. And so I'm being more conscientious about taking them out, And so we went to church. I had help from my daughter Bree, and just a quick trip to get some pull-ups for Rylan. Okay, so in line, I glanced back to see were there people behind me, and I'm kind of questioning, it's taking a long time. Maybe I should just take the kids and go. But then I'm thinking, I am next in line. It is so close, right? And then so suddenly a man, I think he was one person behind me. There was one person between the two of us. And he all of a sudden goes, that's why they can't get nothing done on their phones, right? So the clerk goes, what you say back there? What was that back there? And he said, I said, that's the reason y'all can't get nothing done. This line too long. People got places to go. Y'all act like we ain't got nowhere to go. And she was like, well, I can't help that. It escalated quickly. She's like, I can't help that. I'm helping her. And he was like, well, I don't give a. And she was like, what you say? And he was like, I don't give a. You ain't the only blah, blah, blah in the store. And so I'm already okay, he don't have no respect for women or children, because you see my babies and you just throwing the F-bomb, and not only the words but the tone was just so out of hand, right? And then I'm thinking what do I do? And so I look up, and this man appeared from literally out of nowhere. And he's looking at the man, and he's saying, Man, what you say? He was like, I said, blah, about the line and that. He was like, who you talking to? That's my auntie. You ain't gonna talk to my auntie like that. Um, you can die right here. And after you can die right here, right now, I turned my cart and I pushed my babies to the back of the store. But first, when he said that, I looked up and I met him eye to eye. I ran my eyes down his body and I noticed his stance, his body language, and I turned my cart and I took my children to the back of the store. And so in the back of the store, just hiding out, what I heard was both of the men going back and forth at each other. And by this time, I heard a woman's voice, who I would assume was the clerk, trying to calm her nephew down, because I heard him saying, man, that's my auntie. You talking to people crazy. You got to understand, she got somebody with her. She got somebody with her. You ain't finna. And I was just like, like, this is too much. And I was just like bracing myself because, okay, like, if a man say they gonna kill you and walk towards you, I'm thinking they either gonna do it with their bare hands or a knife. But if you standing 8 to 10 feet away from this man who's behind me and you telling him you gonna kill him, I'm thinking you might pull out something. And I don't know, if you've been to the range, you know how to shoot. A lot of times, people just erratically pulling out guns and they just shooting. And then the person that end up dead, it's not even the person they was aiming for. And so just the whole thing was crazy. And so once everything was solved, when I came back up, I noticed that that same white woman that was trying to get that price reduction was still at the counter. There was a lady who was behind me, is now second in line, and by the time I make it up there, I'm now behind her because the guy who was behind her is no longer in the store. And I'm hearing like the two clerks talking to each other and the woman who was holding up the line. And not saying that she's wrong, just saying she was, holding up the line. She was apologizing to the clerk like, oh, I'm sorry about that, blah, 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 and be safe, right? And the clerk was saying like, yeah, because that's crazy, because you don't never know who, he just in here talking and you don't never know who, and I don't know where blank even came from. And so she didn't even know that her nephew was in the store. So I'm just like, dang, like that is true. Like, you talking to this woman in a way that makes her feel unsafe, and you don't know who, who's with her, because like her nephew said, she got somebody with her. And so it's just like, I mean, his outburst made even me not having anything to do with it, I felt unsafe. But then when the nephew came talking about killing, then I really felt unsafe. So I'm just thinking, like, all of this could have been just a simple, can you call somebody else up to get on this other register? I'm in a hurry. Or it could have been like when the clerk heard him say some off-brand stuff, she could have ignored it. And I'm kind of bouncing those ideas back and forth, and then I'm thinking, like, the nephew, he didn't have to threaten to kill him. He could have threatened to whoop his ass or something. Like, he didn't have to threaten to kill him, you know? And I'm just thinking, like, whew, like, it was just so volatile, just the entire environment, and just to my own trauma around violence in communities. And in my post, I acknowledged, like, my father was murdered when I was just a toddler, and so, like, I would always, like, hear the story about my father and how he was killed and trauma, right? And then I'm just like, I've been impacted personally by violence to where I don't know if it was, I think it was a drive-by, right? So somebody did a drive-by on my home, and I was laying in bed. I believe my baby was about 7 months old, and she was laying on my chest, and in my sleep, all I heard was, I will never forget that sound. And I heard my name. My fiance at the time called my name, and then I felt a hand grip my hair right here in the front, and then that hand started pulling me out of the bed, and I'm hearing the gun, and all I could think to do was to cuff my baby's head inside of my hands. And I don't know, like, in that moment, I don't know if I thought my hands were made out of Kevlar or what, but that's the only thing that I could do. In my subconscious, I don't even think I was all the way awake, but all I could think to do was just take both of my hands and just cup my baby's head. And we made it onto the floor, and the gunfire stopped, right? And so as we lay on the floor, that's enough. Like that, I'll tell the rest of that story another time. But just to say, like, I have been impacted heavily by violence in communities. And so I guess I'll speak now to the point of how we treat and see each other, right? The white woman was holding the line up, but he didn't have any vitriol for her. He took it out on the black woman. Who's just doing her job, right? She's just doing her job. But I want to say, like, the self-hate runs deep. And I don't think maybe anywhere in his mind did he ever think to say, lady, you holding up the line. You know, it just, you know, take it out on the clerk. And true, she was on the phone, but she was on the phone, like, trying to get her coworker to come in. And so I'm very observant, and so I noticed that. And so maybe, you know, the young man, the man was maybe not as observant as I, to know that she's actually on the phone handling some business, you know, not just like chatting with a friend. Anywho, Like, I'm just looking at it like self-hate, lack of communication skills, like really just everybody just on the verge. Just you could just go left at any moment because you just so tightly wound and probably never been given the opportunity or the tools to learn how to self-regulate, right? And these are the things that I'm trying to learn and teach, how to have self-regulation, how to have a balance between like passivity, assertion, and aggression, right? And then like having a place to put your anger, or having words to speak your frustration without being violent. And again, the man's tone to that woman was violent, and even like assault, if you look at the criminal definition of assault, you don't have to touch anybody for it to be an assault. It can just be you made them reasonably think that they were in danger. That is an assault. So just, as I was making like I posted about it, and as I was making the post, I was kind of thinking about all the things that could have been done different, like and as women, we gotta know that when we're gonna challenge a man, we don't know what these men carrying with them. We don't know, if they are women beaters, have mommy issues and hate women. We don't know. And like when we try to match energy, with a man, it is I can't even put words to what it is. Coincidence, ironic, I don't know, that her nephew was in the store, but that can be so dangerous. And as I was sitting here folding clothes, it came to me like women have to be careful, because when we have men that love us, they are willing to die or kill for us. And so we have to be, to a certain extent, cognizant of the fact that sometimes we just gotta let stuff go. And I was kind of thinking about that in the car, but then when it dawned on me that men will die or kill for women they care about, I thought about my father and the whole incident that led to my father being murdered, from my understanding. And again, this is not assigning blame to anyone, not the store clerk, and not even my aunt, because in the story that was told to me about my father's murder, it was because a man disrespected my aunt by flicking his cigarette ashes on her on purpose. And when she saw my father, she told my father what happened. And because my father loved her, he was willing to kill or die for her honor. And so, I don't know. Like, I do a lot of work around, like, birth and breastfeeding and learning about trauma and social determinants of health and adverse childhood experiences and how they affect our lifelong health, right? Mental health and how parenting affects our mental health, our attachment styles, our regulation of how we regulate our emotion, how we're able to have control. And so I kind of tend to look at things from that lens, and also like my experiences of trauma in my life and how they have impacted me. Like my father's murder, and it took me to my teens, or even now at 44, I'm still making different connections, but the grief from my father's murder impacted me in so many ways. And I've heard, and you've probably heard too, about like the bird with the broken wing. And that's kind of how I was as a child. And predators prey on hurt, defenseless things. And that's all I'll say on that. But to bring it back here to this story today is that there is so much work that needs to be done around healing our community and finding self-love, because until you can look in the mirror and love everything about yourself and have pride in yourself and learn how to reject all of these things that white supremacy has injected into our being, then we won't be able to come together as a community and stop all of this violence and trauma and re-traumatization in our communities. And I don't know, I just I want to be part of the solution, right? And I'm encouraging y'all, like whoever is willing to watch this, and it's been 20 something minutes, so if you're still watching, or I don't know how I'll decide to like what media format I'll upload this to, but probably long format, because I don't feel like sometimes if I get to editing stuff, my courage will wear down and I won't do it. And so just I encourage y'all to try to be a part of the solution. And it don't have to be a big thing. It could just be very, very small steps. Even just acknowledging, like, I've noticed, even myself, like sometimes if I meet eye to eye with a white person, I'll kind of, because that's kind of how they do us too. But and then sometimes if I meet eye to eye with a black person, I have learned, and it was modeled to me by a good friend of mine. She speaks to everybody. My mama speaks to everybody, and just sometimes the way that she was received kind of made me shy away from speaking to everybody. And like, my mama come from a small town, and everybody wave, everybody speak. Um, so, and then my really good friend speak to everybody. And I've had some experiences where I have spoke to people and they just kind of ignore you, or even me mug you, and I'm just like, dang sis, what's wrong? Like, I'm saying hey. And so small steps, acknowledge each other. Let's just try to start with just acknowledging each other. And, hey, how you doing? Sincerely, authentically. Hey, how you doing? Right? And then we can just build from there. And if other people doing other things, there's a lot of other things, groups, community centers, things like that. Not so much here where I am, but like, we gotta come together for real, because it's too hard in every generation, just reliving the same things over and over and over, and we just spreading the trauma to the next generation. And I want more. I want better for my children, for your children. So yeah. What a day, right? So that's all. I'm done running my mouth. And if you want to hear me talk some more, I guess talk back to me in the comments. And be safe. Love you.